Jake, this is Allie, and here are what I think are the qualities needed to be a good, effective teacher. First and foremost, a teacher must be passionate. They must be energetic and dedicated, and that passion first has to be for the kids. They have to have a strong interest in seeing their kids succeed and wanting to expand their mind. And when they have this passion, they'll be willing to go that extra mile. They'll be willing to accommodate kids' needs and center instructions around kids' strengths and weaknesses, and just do anything they can to make sure that every student does well in their class. It all comes back to that desire to guide and nurture kids to become people of character, and to be prepared for whatever the next step in life may be. The best example of this in my life was my math teacher the past 2 years, Miss Moser. She was willing to do anything and everything to make sure her students succeed in math. All she wanted was for students to find the joy in math that she had already found. And you could tell that the best part of her job was seeing a student's face light up when they got a math concept. And the best example I can give of her teaching style was for our midterm review. I came in fully prepared with tons of questions. And she said, clear off your desk. We're just going to go through problems together as a class and make sure you all understand the concepts. Because that's what it was about for Miss Moser. It wasn't about memorizing facts and just getting through the material. It was about making sure her students understood the concepts and understood the steps it took to complete the problem and ultimately be able to apply it. And it was the most effective way I could study for the midterm that year. A teacher also has to be encouraging and supportive. They have to instill confidence in their students from the beginning. They have to convey to them that if they're willing to work hard and if they're willing to be committed to their studies, that they can accomplish whatever they set their minds to. And they have to make this clear at the beginning, because if a teacher doesn't believe in a student, the student doesn't believe in themselves. Teachers have a huge influence over their kids, and they need to recognize this from the beginning, that they're taking on a position of being this kid's role models. And that means that they can never give up on their kids, and that they have to be a source of encouragement and support whenever kids need it. And the best example of this in my life is my 7th English history teacher, Mr. Ludwig. Don't get me wrong, he was a fantastic teacher, and he made these subjects so interesting and so much fun, and I loved his class. But the thing that makes Mr. Ludwig my favorite teacher is that even after 7th grade, even when I wasn't his student anymore, he still cared about me and still wanted to be there to encourage me through all of my big decisions in life, whether it be high school or college. He was always encouraging me, always telling me that I could do this, always just being a great source of advice and wisdom. And he ultimately encouraged me and pushed me to apply your decision here. He told me that, I was good enough to be here, even though I didn't think I was good enough to be here. And that was huge for me. And he will always be one of my favorite teachers to this day. Lastly, a teacher needs to be available and approachable. They basically have to be willing to put in any amount of time to make sure that their students do well in their particular subject. They need to be available. They need to convey that they're available all the time, whether it be meetings, emails, etc., that they will do whatever it takes to make sure that their student succeeds. And that you can approach them with any question without fear or without feeling that they're dumb. No question is too little or too big. And teachers who are willing to put in this extra time will ultimately see their kids succeed the most. And further, teachers then, once spending time with these kids, teachers should figure out what works for their student and what doesn't work, what teaching styles work and what don't work. The best example of this in my life is my English teacher of the past 2 years, Dr. Cottingham. I am terrible at English, and going into her class, I was so nervous and so intimidated. And she knew how nervous I was and wanted to do anything and everything to reduce my fears and anxieties. She dealt with my hundreds of emails and dealt with putting up with me twice a week in her meetings. And she didn't care that I was taking up a lot of her time. She only cared about me succeeding in her class. And the day that I got my first A in her class was a glorious day. We were both jumping up and down, screaming, because we were both just so excited that I finally got it and was able to do it. And it was all because she was willing to put in so much extra time for me to understand English. Overall, society definitely underestimates how much time, energy, and effort is needed to be an effective, good teacher. Not only do they have to be able to teach the material well, meaning that they explain it clearly and do it in a way in which students are able to understand and apply these concepts, but they also have to be an effective teacher, which refers to going that extra mile, like I was talking about earlier, being 100% dedicated to these kids, always being there and being that source of strength when kids really need it. And ultimately, then teachers will reach that goal of creating students of character who are well-rounded individuals and who are prepared for the next step in life, whether that be the great next grade, high school, college, whatever. Students will ultimately be prepared by having a good, effective teacher with the qualities I've mentioned previously.